Hello YouTube, this is We All Juggle Knives. Today I have a very awesome fixed blade from Sweden. Yes, this is the KNV2 Gen 2. Right, and the company that makes this is called Jaktkit. Right, Jaktkit. I had to ask them how to pronounce that because my Swedish is not very good, but I try. A closer look at this blade. The blade length is about 4.4 inches by my measurement. Alright, and I have a lot of usage footage coming up. Okay, but first I just wanted to give you a few close-ups of this knife just so you actually see what it is. Right, it has a convexed edge. Right, and you can see the handle on this, it's TPEE. Right, and it is just a beautiful knife. I really love this size of knife because it's big enough to do some work, right? But it's also small enough to be very handy. Right, now I am going to include a link to the website, right? So you can see all the stuff they have to offer, and you can also see all the stats on this knife. You know, now you see it has a very nice satin finish. I did a lot with this knife. You know, that satin finish, it's marked up a bit because of all the stuff I did. It performed very well. Coming up, several minutes of usage footage. Hope you enjoy. Okay, step one, stab your knife into something. Now this is a very sharp knife. Check it out. And this is a really cool technique you can use. It's a very safe technique because notice, you know, your hand is nowhere near the sharp edge of that knife. And what you can do is you can remove bark from a branch and you can shape the branch. You know, you can basically thin out the branch. I'm thinning this branch out. So for example, if you wanted to, I don't know, if you wanted to make like a spear or something, or you needed that branch to be a certain shape and width, this is a safe technique, an efficient technique, and also you can apply a lot of force with a pulling motion. Now this is a short knife, so you're not going to baton like a piece of wood of a very large diameter, but it can do a little bit of batoning. Now what are we actually accomplishing by this? Well, you're basically increasing the surface area, you know. Splitting 1 into 2, you're increasing surface area. And as you see, I did quite a lot of batoning and made a lot of shavings there. Okay, the spark maker. This is a very cheap, free spark maker that I just had laying around. But even with this small spark maker, you can make a lot of sparks, right? You see that? Yeah, you can strike on the spine. Alright, here I'm just making some shavings. Now I'm doing this in mid-air, right, because I didn't want to have to readjust my camera angle and all that. In real life, you'd brace it against something. But the point here is you can make a whole bunch of shavings with this small knife. And those shavings, you know, you could sped up the footage here. Look, it's a rain of shavings. But yeah, for example, you could light those shavings on fire with a little bit of tinder and your spark maker there. You know, more than able to make shavings. Okay, you can also just, right, you can push cut and draw down onto this piece of wood. And if you needed, for example, if you needed to make like a tent peg, right, you could go further with this. You know, I'm stripping off the bark here. But you could go further and make that into a tent peg or something if you needed to. Testing the tip and the grip right here. Just doing some downward reverse stabs into a wedge of wood. I just want to test that this grip gives a good, safe grip even under a lot of force. And also a little bit of testing of the tip, both the penetration of it, right? And of course it's not going to get blunted by wood, but just to make sure. You could also make a divot by rotating that. Here showing more how that very sharp edge interacts with a piece of firewood there, cutting into it fairly deeply. I'm not trying to make a feather stick. That's not supposed to be a feather stick. It just happens to, it happens to resemble one. But I'm really just showing you how this will bite into a piece of wood. Alright, making some more shavings and some little curly cues there. It's a very nice edge on this. Here I'm going to make a notch. You see I'm batoning crosswise there just to get it started, to mark the edges of my notch. And now I'm going to carve out a notch in this piece of wood. Now if you need to build something, right, and obviously you don't have screws, you don't have nails out there, so it can be useful to put a notch in a piece of wood. Right, and then you can fit two pieces of wood together, kind of like how they make a log cabin. You know what I mean? So if you needed to fit these together for I don't know, a trap or a shelter or something, you could. Here just giving you a close-up of the blade after doing a whole bunch of stuff with it. And I did even more off camera, and you can see it's all marked up. It held up well. That edge, it's extremely strong. Yeah, look at those nice usage marks on this blade. This is one very awesome blade. Here is the sheath that the knife comes with. You see the slots and eyelets there. You see the belt loop. This is a very high quality sheath. You see it has a horizontal retaining strap. The sheath is fitted to the knife. It will not come out even with the strap undone. It has that thumb rest to push off for deployment. Right, it retains it and it's silent, very good sheath. Okay, size comparison, Fellkniven A1, right, and then you see the KNV knife, and then very common Ontario Pilot Survival knife. Everybody knows approximately how big that is. So you see the KNV a bit shorter than the Ontario, and then on the end there's a Martini knife. So you see the KNV slightly bigger than the small Scandi. A side-by-side comparison with my Fellkniven A1. Notice how similar the handles are, both in the shape and in the construction. The fact that you can see the tang goes all the way to the end of on both handles. Now I asked the manufacturer why they're so similar, and they just said, well, yeah, they are similar and you can feel free to show it in your video, so I am showing it. And they didn't really have a reason except that it's just an efficient shape for a handle. Right? The other difference is the Fellkniven has a bevel and the other knife does not. Final conclusion. Well, this can pretty much do everything you would expect of a small knife, It can slice, it can make a tent peg, it can make shavings, you could make a feather stick. You can notch wood, you can strike your fire steel. I mean, it just does everything except chop down a tree. Okay, so I was very impressed. Very highly recommended. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'm out.